It is the landmark of Munich and should not be missing on any postcard. The Frauenkirche, or officially Dom zu unserer lieben Frau, Cathedral of Our Dear Lady. The brick building was constructed in the 1500s and has been the cathedral church of the Archbishop of Munich and Freising since 1821. What does the devil have to do with the construction of the church? Why is it modeled on a building in the Islamic world? And why is its interior so simply designed? All these questions are answered in this video. There are many legends surrounding the church. One is that a girl was trampled to death in the small previous church, or that she collapsed and couldn't be carried out of the overcrowded church quickly enough. The true core of the legend is probably that the city of Munich was growing and the self-confident citizens needed a larger church. Jörg Ganghofer was hired as the architect and the church was built from 1468 to 1488 in just 20 years. A record time for the time. Only the two towers lack their roof, as can be seen here in a copperplate engraving from 1495. It must have taken the devil to build a church in 20 years. Perhaps this is how the legend of the devil's footstep came about. But here too there are different versions. One version is that the devil offered his help to the master builder Ganghofer on the condition that he built a church without windows. When the devil was invited into the church, he couldn't actually see any windows from where he was standing, as they were covered by the pillars. Full of rage, he stomped into the floor of the church so that you can still see his footprint today. And on windy days you can even hear the devil howling with rage around the church. Presumably the legend is of somewhat more recent origin. Just like today, in the Middle Ages you could see the window behind the altar. In Baroque times, however, a high altar was built which blocked the view of the window. There is speculation as to whether the legend was not a joke by the carpenters of the time. In addition to the devil's footprint, the iconic onion domes of the Frauenkirche are of course particularly famous. The onion-shaped roofs were added to the church in 1525. The shape is based on images and stories of pilgrims from the Holy Land. The citizens of Munich saw the pictures of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and what they saw on it was thought to be Solomon's temple. But even then, it was no longer the temple, but the Muslim Dome of the Rock. They thought it would be a great idea to put the roof of Solomon's temple on the church. But in reality, they put the roof of a mosque on the church. But the iconic onion-shaped towers were almost lost. In the 19th century it was fashionable to Gothicize all churches. The Frauenkirche was also to appear more Gothic on the outside. The onion domes were to be replaced by pointed towers. Fortunately, this was never implemented. On the other hand, many works of art in the interior did not survive the iconoclasm of the neo-Gothic restoration measures from 1858 onwards. The loss of the Benno arch from the Baroque period is particularly painful, especially as it was precisely this altar that covered the rear window and was therefore so important for the church's history and the legend of the devil's footstep. Today, the church looks very plain, especially in comparison to the opulent neighboring churches such as St. Michael's or the Theatine Church. Nevertheless, there are still some interesting works of art to be seen here. To the right of the main portal is the empty tomb of Ludwig the Bavarian, the only Holy Roman Emperor Bavaria ever had. He was crowned emperor in 1328 and died in 1347. His remains are also in the cathedral, but in the crypt. The bronze tomb here was commissioned by his successor, Maximilian I, in 1622. It was of course intended to show that the house of Wittelsbach was of imperial blood. After all, we never know when another Wittelsbach will ascend to the imperial throne. Spoiler, it never happened. Something that is only marginally related to the cathedral can also be seen here. The imperial standard has the imperial colors black and gold. This is why the city of Munich also has its color black and gold. A bronze plaque commemorates Pope Benedict XVI, who was Bishop of Munich from 1977 to 1982. Gothic carvings of all the saints whose relics can be found in the cathedral can be found on the choir stalls behind the altar. Under the altar is the crypt, which was built in 1971. It contained the tombs of several Wittelbachs, including the actual tomb of Emperor Ludwig the Bavarian and the tomb of Ludwig III, the last king of Bavaria. An unusual sight can be found in a side aisle of the church, an automaton clock from the 16th century. However, its exterior has undergone various changes over time. There are of course many beautiful side chapels and Gothic windows, which I can't go into detail about all of them. A tour around the church is also worthwhile. Many entrance portals are richly decorated. The Donatus portal is particularly worth seeing. The church's foundation stone inscription can also be found here. The many gravestones set into the church wall are also notable. They once came from the cemetery surrounding the church and today bear witness to the wealthy patricians who once lived in Munich. One last piece of information: you can climb the south tower of the Frauenkirche. A single ticket costs €7.50. As always, I link all the useful links in the description. I hope you enjoyed the tour of the Frauenkirche, the Cathedral of Our Dear Lady. If you are in Munich and need an exclusive guided tour, here's my email address, and otherwise, see you at the next video. Philip.